Welcome to this quick tutorial on using Adobe Bridge and how to import RAW files into Adobe Bridge for basically raw picture editing. What we're going to be doing is going into Adobe Bridge. Now I've got the Adobe CC 2019 copy, and you can even go back to earlier versions of this and it doesn't really matter. Earlier versions might not have support for converting any of your RAW files, like either it's Canon RAW files or Nikon RAW files, into a DNG format, which is the kind of an Adobe standard, DNG standing for digital negative, of course. So with that said, let's get into Adobe Bridge and we'll kind of start over this. We'll look over this interface and then we'll kind of go from there on importing. And then we'll break it out into other mini lessons on how to do some quick basic edits and some time savers in there. So without further ado, let's get in. And in Adobe Bridge, the first, I'm going to reset this to reset workplace. Initially, when you open up Adobe Bridge, and basically it's the equivalent of Lightroom, but the reason why I prefer this over Adobe Lightroom is that the user interface is way easier. You don't have to deal with any catalogs, and the raw editing UI is better. UI standing for user interface, of course. With that said, along this top here, you've got a navigation pane, a history pane, return to Photoshop. In here, you can import photos from a camera if you already have it hooked up. With that said, I've got my libraries look, a film strip look, output. This is if you're going to do any printing. Metadata, which is huge. A lot of people don't realize what they're missing out on not using metadata. And also for keywords, using keywords is crucial as well. With that said, moving over, we're going to take a look at the tools in this far corner. These are often forgotten, but with this, you've got the option to do a quick browse where you can see it's kind of jaggedy here. I'll zoom in a little bit. You get a very loose interpretation of what an image looks like. To whereas on here you can take a look at the thumbnail for quality, and I always go for high quality when I'm looking at my thumbnails, and that's right here. So if I'm going in this route where it's just a quick view, these aren't going to be a very good quality, and I always just my computer can handle the processing power, so I just always leave it on high quality. For filters, this is something that's kind of I don't use this as much because down here is where I use more of my filtering for what I want to find. Now, when I first go into this, I want to go back into my Essentials panel, and I think I already saved a workload, a workspace, I should say. Preview. I can't remember if I set one or not, but anyway, when I always go into Lightroom for the first time, or after I reinstall a new copy of it, I will go in, and if you click on one of these pictures in here, I will go in on this side for my preview, and I will resize this according to how big I want my preview image to be. And so I just click and drag on this little window here, and then I don't need this much metadata information, so I'm going to click on here and I'm going to drag this window down. Now this much metadata and keywords is perfect for me, and I don't even really look at the keywords in this particular case. But all I want to see is I want to see my folders. You can do favorites, of course, but folders in particular, and then also my filters and collections. I don't do a lot with collections, but I do with the filters. And then content's the next part to this. With that said, I'm going to stop here. This is a good spot to stop. I don't want to do any more with this right now, but for a basic workflow, this is something that definitely is my preferred work space look, I guess you could say. Some people prefer others. You'll have to play around with this and check out these views and see what works best for you. But for that, I will get into the next tutorial on importing video or importing pictures and then converting them to DNG.